I do have a real question for you, though. Would you be comfortable with meeting Tom Cruise? That is the ultimate question. I don't know if I would be, but man, I can watch him do stunts and running all day. Top Gun Maverick is the sequel to the original Top Gun, obviously, and it's something that I am super actually behind on. I'm a sinner when it comes to this movie in cinema. I have not seen the original Top Gun, and it's a movie that I know is super popular among, like, my family, like, my parents love it, and a lot of people, like, even my parents' friends, just people I've met in my life from the previous generation love that movie, and it's just something I've never watched. And so then Top Gun Maverick comes out and I go see it. But man, this movie really delivered on every front that I could want, just from a blockbuster and a great movie in general. Top Gun Maverick is definitely a film that, even without seeing the first one, I think you can enjoy. You definitely won't get as much of the weight behind certain plot elements of the story simply because you haven't seen the first one. But if you have seen the original, then this movie is just going to smack you even harder in the face with a lot of the emotion. We'll get into that, but first I want to talk about the actual elements that I saw this movie for, which were the practical action, the stunt work, and the amazing filmmaking that went into actually getting these jets in the air and having Tom Cruise and crew flying these jets around in real time, in camera, and that is just something we don't get a lot of in blockbusters right now. We are kind of filled in a comic book world filled with CG, and it's never anything, it's not something that I think is ruining cinema like a lot of YouTubers and people online like to say. I don't think it's ruining cinema. I just do think we're getting a deficit of other stuff that I would like to see more of and more appreciation for, and I think we're starting to get there. However, I do think Tom Cruise and company they're great spearheads for that movement in more practical stunt work, in more being on location and doing this stuff in real time in camera instead of really putting everything on a green screen using CG. Of course, this movie has special effects like that, and I'm not bagging on that as a negative. I don't think special effects and CGI are bad things. I just think in the grand scheme of movies right now, it makes me happy that we're getting a film like this that is so adamant on being practical. And literally, there's a shot in this movie that could only get shot once because the set flew away during the scene. That happened. It's really cool, and I really dig that they're able to take risks like that, because risk-taking with these actual vehicles it's something I was jaw-dropping at in the theater as I was watching it. It was really something truly special to behold. The sequences in this movie are absolutely mind-blowing, dude. You gotta watch it just for that. Even if you haven't seen the original, pay money to see this for the practical stunt work that is involved. I think it's all the well worth it. Film nuts like you, me, people around us, we love that shit. Go watch it for that. That is where this movie really, truly shines. And what I also love in getting into the performances is that in these sequences, in these great, and just in the film in general, in the plot, in the story, just with characters, dialogue, but especially in the action sequences, the film never lost me in the performances of the actors. Tom Cruise, Miles Teller, and the rest of the gang do so well, even when they're masked up and in the jets, and you still really get their emotions conveyed, and you understand the tension between certain characters, and you never lose that. It's always a through line throughout the action sequences, and you never lose sight of that. It never feels like separate entities in the filmmaking and the overall storytelling. They feel like one in tandem unit all the time. Character-driven performances, character-driven story through character-driven action. You don't really even get told what the mission is in this movie that the characters are on. But yet, I was so invested emotionally in the characters going on this mission, and I think this film did a great job at balancing that out. I think what really, really works for me is the fact that we didn't get told really what exactly their mission is, because I think I like this perspective that sometimes it's not about the mission the characters are going on, but whether the fact that they're just going to survive it. A lot of these soldiers don't know if they're going to walk out of this stuff alive, and you really get a sense that that is the point of this movie. I really like seeing the characters deal with that dilemma just in the training sections alone. Like, stuff like that I live for. I live for a plot about team building and really friendship or brotherhood forming beyond blood. And this movie really has a heavy emotional core at its center that explores that. It really just made for an overall better experience and a deeper experience than I expected. Being someone who's kind of new to Top Gun and being someone who was just going into this movie for all the awesome action that I was telling you about. But really, I got so much more out of it that is worth talking about and really conveying how great it is. Tom Cruise does a great job in his performance. Miles Teller is a standout. He does so fantastic in really carrying such resentment and tension, but also curiosity and kind of this eagerness to learn more that you get from his character that really just shines, and it really stood out to me. I always love Miles Teller in films, and I'm glad he's in this, and I'm glad he goes toe to toe and gets to share screen time with Tom Cruise, and they bounce back and forth off each other pretty well, and I really enjoyed their dynamic in this movie without giving too much away, and I think fans of the original Top Gun will also really, really appreciate it. Miles Teller's character, Rooster, he was my favorite of the bunch. Another great positive I have for Top Gun Maverick is the tone and style. This movie does such a great job at nailing atmosphere and feel-good vibes throughout the film, especially with the opening credits. It's so 80s. The opening and the end credits are so 80s that it made me feel warm inside in a way that felt so nice. And you'll know exactly what I mean when you watch it. And I appreciated this movie even went back to that 80s style type of vibe, even with just the opening credits. A lot of the little details and inner workings and cinematography and just the story beats that are really simplistic and really just bonding moments among characters are all the more valuable scene by scene when you really focus on it and making that the core of the story rather than just the bombastic action, which is the bombastic action and the craziness and the awesome stunt work is then supported by the characters. In terms of flaws, I really don't know what I could say that really displeased me about this movie. I think the only biggest thing I had, it was just a small nitpick, because there's one character, and I won't really give it away, but he does feel kind of like the generic bully, mean douchebag guy in a group among students, and it's kind of something that does stand out. However, it ends up coming around by the end. I end up actually enjoying his arc towards the third act, and I think they do some things that I liked. While kind of predictable, yeah, but I still enjoyed it, and I think that's ultimately what matters. This movie really does end up being very feel-good by the end, and I walked out feeling warm. I walked out having like a great time. I didn't expect to walk out feeling warm from Top Gun Maverick. I expected to be like, whoa, the jets were crazy, that was awesome. But I didn't expect to be like, oh, I feel good. I feel good. You know, like I didn't expect to get that feeling, if you know what I'm saying. I really loved Top Gun Maverick, and I really appreciated what this movie did in terms of tone, style, bringing it back. I loved just pretty much everything about this movie. In terms of flaws, I gave you my one really kind of nitpick. Other than that, the movie really delivered. I know I'm really kind of liking most of the stuff I'm reviewing right now, but I don't know anybody any apology for that. So also, if you're a fan of the original, you're probably going to love this movie, and you've probably already seen it by now. But yeah, go check out Top Gun Maverick. It's a great time. I'll see you next time.